Survival is not just about staying alive. It's about finding hope, healing, and strength. This is The Survivor's Voice. I'm your host, Angie Sedore. Before we begin, this episode may contain discussions of trauma, abuse, or other sensitive topics. Listener discretion is advised. We don't recommend listening to this show with young children present, and we encourage you to prioritize your well-being. Today on The Survivor's Voice,
I could tell something wasn't right. She's sending me straight to the emergency room. It was gut-wrenching because when I wasn't getting better.
welcome to The Survivor's Voice. I'm Angie, your host, and I'm so grateful you've tuned in today. We are here today with Malaina, and I'm really excited to hear her story and dig into what she's been through, what she's overcome, and I'm hopeful that it's going to be a real encouragement to all of you listeners. So, Malaina, thank you so much for being on our podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you.
So, just tell us a little bit about who you are right now. Like, what do you do for a living? Like, what is Malaina all about right now?
Right now, my days consist of mostly relaxing. I did start the internship with Dan recently, and so I've been getting involved in the community a lot more in these past few weeks. So most days, if it doesn't consist of work, I just relax, hang out with my animals, and I'm more artsy, so I like to color and paint and things like that.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I am 24.
Well, great. So let's just dig into your story. So let's start kind of at the beginning. Tell me kind of about your childhood, how you were raised. Like, what was childhood like for you?
Yeah, childhood was very active for me. I remember, I was always in soccer. When I started getting older in middle school, I did track, and I had an older brother and a younger brother, so I was, in the dirt and playing outside.
Yeah.
And we were kind of, we weren't raised with a lot of technology, so it was mostly hanging out outside. And so it was we lived in a neighborhood that was just filled with kids, and it was a very kid-oriented location, and I lived near all my family. We all pretty much lived on the same street.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
All my cousins and I got to grow up together, and it was, I'd say, a very active kid lifestyle and just normal. I felt very normal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did you grow up around here?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I was born in South Florida, but I did grow up, and my childhood was around here.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. So you mentioned that you're only 24.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, a lot of our guests on this show have been more advanced in age, right? And so I'm a little taken back that you already have a story to share.
Yeah, it was hard to accept because I was so young, and so that's why it took me so long to end up going to the doctor, because I didn't want to believe that what Dr. Google was telling me was correct.
So what were your symptoms? What were you feeling?
I had started to experience severe fatigue and just very brain fog. I could tell something wasn't right.
Yeah.
And it was really hard for me to get out of bed, and I was drinking heavily, and I was living on my own at that time. I used to have a boyfriend. He lived with me, but we ended up breaking up, and so the drinking just it went into me living by myself and stuff like that, and this bloating started to happen, and I just was like, I feel like this is could do with woman problems or something.
Okay.
Maybe I've got a crappy diet already. I'm not eating right. This is weird. So I'm just taking notes of these little things. And then during the summer, my eyes started to turn yellow.
Oh, what?
And they were blatantly yellow.
Oh my God.
And everybody was asking me if I had gotten my eyes tattooed or what was going on, because it was that quickly.
Wow.
That people they saw me and then they didn't see me, so they thought it had to have been a tattoo or something. And then I started to notice the sides of my feet right here underneath my ankle bone. They were swelling in a way that I've never seen swelling before. And I worked in like the medical field. I'm a CNA. I know different types of swelling, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, this is weird. And so I scheduled a doctor's appointment for my primary physician. It was as a new patient. And she took one look at me and was like, you need to go to the hospital.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, no, there's something you can do for me.
Yeah.
And she's like, no,
Wow.
there's nothing that I can do for you.
How did you feel in that moment?
In that moment, I still was just like, no, this isn't true, because a few weeks before I had been trying to fix, because when I read what causes yellowing of eyes, and it was liver failure. And I was like, okay, milk thistle, like, you know, I got this.
Yeah.
And so I was like pretty much overdosing myself on milk thistle, thinking that I was going to be able to cure it on my own.
Oh my God.
And so I had to make that phone call with my mom and be like, she's sending me straight to the emergency room. And my mom works like an hour away, so she had to drive all the way back. I couldn't even imagine what that drive felt like, you know. But so I packed a bag and I went to the emergency room, and as soon as those doctors looked at me too, they were like, nope, this isn't good. And so I started getting hooked up to all the IVs, and my first stay in the hospital was for about 8 days.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And
This was a year ago?
this was in August of last year. Yeah. So right now we're on April 7th will be 8 months.
Wow.
And so when I had fully been processed into the hospital and everything, and they started drawing my blood, I was in stage 4 kidney failure. I was in liver failure. My body was no longer like making blood, disposing of dead blood. And so the bloating that was in my stomach was sepsis.
Oh my gosh.
And so
You're so tiny, like.
and at the time, I just kept getting bigger and bigger. And so by the time I had gotten into the hospital, I was hitting about 160. And
Wow, that's unbelievable. Wow.
yeah, I was pretty chunky. And I had just thought too, I started like really drinking when I was like 18, 19, you know?
Yeah.
And so I just thought, you know, gradual weight gain. I'm a
Sure.
girl, I'm getting older, drinking, poor diet, I'm getting bigger, whatever.
God.
But no. And so by the time I had gotten the results of those tests, they just started trying to give me anything and everything that they could. And it was gut-wrenching, because when I wasn't getting better. And they were like, we're not understanding why, because at 23 at the time, because I just turned 24 in November, 23 at the time, they were like, I don't even understand, because I'd only had about 4 or 5 years of drinking underneath my belt.
No kidding.
So, and I have no genetic predispositions to like liver disorders or anything. And so they just started pumping me full of diuretics, and I was able to, well, in the beginning, actually, in those first 8 days, they didn't give me a diuretic, because they were still trying to like diagnose like what was causing this and what was causing that.
Okay.
And so they had thought that all of my levels were okay enough to send me home to try and get better at home. And so I went home for about a week after
like a
those
bad
8
idea.
days. Yeah. And I got worse.
Oh my God.
And when I went back in, they had to do, it's called a pericentesis. And they stabbed like a huge needle into my side and just started draining my stomach. And it was so dire and so like emergency that they didn't even ask my mom to leave the room or anything like that. They just started like throwing down like almost like puppy pads, you know.
Oh my God.
And there was blood everywhere, and they had to use like this vacuum thing, and they set it on the ground, and it just was pouring out this like thick red brown like horrible liquid that had been leaking inside of me.
Oh my God.
And if they had nicked any of my other organs or anything while they were going in there to get that liquid out, I would have like immediately, if it got into my
Oh.
bowels, I would have immediately died
Yeah.
and like all this stuff. And so every procedure that I had was life and death. And then I had so many CT scans, so many MRIs, and they weren't in the beginning giving me any medication for the pain. They were giving me muscle relaxers, but it wasn't doing like anything. And it, like I had never taken really any pain medication or anything like that before, so I'm assuming anything that you're going to give me is going to help.
Sure.
And it didn't at all. I would lie awake and just ache and ache.
All in your stomach area?
In my stomach, and especially my kidneys, because
Oh,
they
God.
were shutting down, and so I would try to like massage them, but nothing
There's
was
no way to get comfortable.
nothing was making them better.
Oh my God.
And so when they did an ultrasound and I got to see the ultrasound, my liver it filled my entire chest cavity.
Wow.
So that's how swollen it was. And they were like, it's a really good sign. I know it sounds bad, but it's a really good sign that it's swollen and huge, because that means it can come back down. But if it was all shriveled up, it was never going to be able to revive, you know?
Wow.
And so, yeah, they were like, you're going to need a liver transplant. And I was like,
What?
You're joking. That's funny, you know,
Oh my
like
gosh.
one of those things where you didn't think at 23 and
How did I
looking
get
at,
here?
yeah,
Yeah.
how did this happen? They told me that, then they were telling me I needed to be put on dialysis
Oh.
because my kidneys were failing. And so thank gosh for the advocates that I had during that time, because I would still, to this day, right now, I would be going to dialysis 3 times a week and getting all the blood drained out and put back in me, all cleaned up. And the advocates that I had, they made the doctors open their eyes a little bit of, again, back to my age. Most people that get on dialysis, they never get off.
Nope.
And so much of my life is going to be
Taken from you.
Yeah. So they were like, okay, fine, we'll give her kidneys one more day. And my kidneys went up 1 point.
Oh my gosh.
And so then the next day they went up another point. And they were slowly getting better though. And they were like, okay, you don't need dialysis. And so they were about to give me dialysis for the rest of my life pretty much, but they said that I could get off it when I needed to. But so those were these little things with CUNY Medical Center that I did have little issues with. Those were definitely moments of like, wow, this is real. This is actually happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, in total, I spent 2 months in the hospital, and I was carrying like gallons of liquid in my legs. My legs were like this big. I was wearing my dad's clothes.
Wow.
Yeah, I couldn't even fit into my dad's slippers. My feet were so big. Like I have all these like stretch marks and stuff because my feet got so big. And when they would try to wrap it, right at my ankle, right here, for some reason, would be the only part that could go down. And so it would be just like my bone, my ankles were like that big.
Oh my
and then the
gosh.
rest of it would be huge because it was so tight, and like it would just disperse everywhere. I would use the restroom and my pants were right here, and I'd get up and I would have a giant divot because I had pitting edema.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, so I went through tons of blood transfusions and all sorts of tests, and I got to know everybody there. My hospital room became my bedroom, and it was every day my family came and visited, and I wasn't supposed to leave.
No.
They told me that I wasn't going to be leaving. When it got really bad, my mom had my older sister fly up from South Florida for 1 day just to say goodbye.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I had to contact like old friends, my ex-boyfriend.
You thought your life was over.
Yeah, but in the moment too, I didn't know that that's what she was doing, because I just thought she was like, you need to see these people or something. She didn't tell me I was saying goodbye.
Yeah.
Until after. I wasn't supposed to leave, and so when I was able to leave, I went into that hospital in a wheelchair, filled with fluid, dying, and I was able to walk
Oh my
out
gosh.
on my own and haven't been back since. So now it just consists of going to the doctor a lot, and I'm on University of Washington's, like, their transplant list, but
So they still think you need a transplant?
yes.
Really?
But the thing is not like in this moment. So, because obviously it happened so quickly last summer that all of that happened within a few months. And if that could happen ever again, all they need to do is just take my name and put it based on how sick I am onto the actual list.
Okay.
And so I've got all the paperwork and everything, all the doctors lined up for that transplant. So if I ever get sick again, now I've got all the steps already done. And
Did they tell you what caused it?
they said it was alcoholism.
No way.
Alcohol cirrhosis. And yeah, they labeled it all as alcohol. And I mean, I was drinking, and
How much were you drinking?
it was, I mean, I would probably drink like a fifth to myself a day.
A day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so
And you're very petite.
yeah. And I wasn't eating.
Okay.
And so that was one of the main things that with the weight gain, I was like, I'm not eating. And so I'm not understanding how I'm gaining so much weight. And all of that happened within those 8 months of that last year. And it was another sign that I had was I tried to run across a street with my friends. We were running across the street, and there was a car coming, and so I needed to like pick up the pace.
Yeah.
And I physically couldn't.
Oh my God.
Like if I was gonna put any weight down on my legs, they were gonna crumble underneath me. And I was like, this isn't right, because some of my friends have had babies and things like that, and they're full blown sprinting across this street. And in my head, I'm like, your body's gone through that, so then they can run. There's something wrong if I can't run, because I'm not severely obese. I played soccer my whole life. All of these things, there's something wrong. And little things like bumping into a wall or stubbing my toe or anything like that, it would bruise severely and never go away because my body wasn't getting rid of the dead blood.
Wow.
And it started taking my vision. I would have to work, like I was working at a computer a lot of my time. I was working for a chiropractor, and I would have to get like this close just to see the time at the corner of the computer.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I was like, this isn't right. That doesn't make any sense. I've had the best vision all my life. And so I thought maybe I need blue light glasses. And so I kept trying to find all these different answers for what was going on.
Yeah.
And I never wanted to be like, oh, the drinking is probably what's causing all of this, because in my head I still had a job, I had a car, I was paying my bills. It wasn't like I was not, I was pretty functioning.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe not at 100%, but shit was done. And so I'd never thought that like that was going to be the end, that was going to be what I had to change in my life.
Wow. So my assumption is there's no more drinking in your life ever again.
Yeah, never. I haven't had a drop since the day I went into the hospital. And even getting a mocktail at a restaurant, I still have, I'll get like nervous. I make other people drink it first, because
Oh my God.
one of the last times I was at a restaurant, I watched my waiter take a shot at the bar with a group of people, and then he came and brought my mocktail. And in my head, obviously I've drank before, and so I know it's very easy to make a small mistake quickly. And if he put a shot in my drink, that I know probably one shot isn't going to kill me, but I don't know what could.
Right.
And like on Wednesday I had gone to Triple Play, and on Thursday I had already been feeling like, oh, this is, so my immune system, like all of these little different things I have to constantly now be aware of. And Like my mom got me my own metal straw because a reusable foldable straw, so I don't have to use anybody else's. We don't know how they wash stuff. You don't know what kind of restaurant I have hand sanitizer in every corner, like, and it's even like I fell out of a truck in the snow. It hit my liver when I fell, and so then it's like, oh my gosh,
Oh my God.
all these different things that I never thought I had to think about before. It's just so, life has changed so much in a matter of months.
My God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you getting any help with that? Because that's some severe medical trauma.
Yeah, I know, and I'm not. That I realized doing my personal testimony on my own. Immediately when I got up, I said, I think I need to see a therapist.
Yeah.
Having somebody to talk to, that was what I think I opened up my being like, okay, because my entire life I've always been like, I don't want to talk to a random person. I don't want to, like, I don't want to have to tell somebody all over again what happened. And so I would always talk to like family members or things like that, and they would give great advice, but it was always in some way, shape, or form, even if they didn't mean to, bias.
Sure.
And so I needed to come to that realization on my own, because I've been through, breakups and hardships with losing family members, or, things like that, a lot of people need to talk about. And when you don't have a lot of friends or people that you feel comfortable with talking to,
Yeah.
I guess you have to pay somebody to do that.
Yeah. And even when you do, you still should pay somebody to do it.
Yeah.
Because they have the training.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people, we have our vices, right? So we do things. There's always a root issue, a root cause of why we drink, why we do drugs, why we're on social media constantly. Like, what was your root?
Yeah, I think in the beginning, I thought it was just so normal. Like, not the amount, because, like, in the beginning, that wasn't like that. It was, like, that was at the very end. That's how the drinking was.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, it was, parties, just, being a teenager kind of thing. I probably started drinking a little too early, but it was very more like normal functions, things like that. We'd go to parties and drink. And then I got my own apartment, and so it would be going home and drinking, or on Friday nights, and then it ended up turning into Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then every day. And then now I'm coming home after work, and on my way home, I'm stopping at the liquor store.
Yeah.
And so, they're having me and my boyfriend, we lived together at that time, and so it was very like habitual, if that makes any sense. Like, come home, make dinner, and we just sit, talk about our day, have a drink. And so it ended up just becoming very, and alcohol in my family has always been prevalent. It's never been like, oh, we look down on people who drink, or drinking is horrible and things like that. And so it was never like, I drink, I'm the black sheep, that sort of thing. And so when it was in my house, it was never, to me, didn't feel like an issue. And then when I ended up realizing that it was an everyday thing, and then needing, when I would have a thought of like, okay, that's almost empty, do I save that for tomorrow? Or do I drink it and then get in a whole nother one? And then I'm like, okay, that's one red flag to where it's like, okay, that's an issue. If I'm worried about my next one when I literally still have some right now, I think that's an issue.
Yeah.
And so it just became more of almost like an unrecognized habit. Like, it really did. And it just came with like age, becoming 21, going to restaurants, and now you can drink, going anywhere, and now you can drink.
Yeah.
And so me and my boyfriend did.
Yeah.
We just took that 21, and and so I guess I just was the one that went a little too hard with it, and it caught up to me.
Because I feel like there's this grieving process too, because you're grieving the loss of what you thought your life was going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like, a lot of people ask me, oh, what's it like to be sober, or how are you dealing with it and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't really have like this. I'm not looking for a drink anymore. I'm not looking for a feeling. I'm not looking for anything of that anymore. Now I just have fear of missing out. I've seen people when they get married and they go on their honeymoon and they get to the hotel and they're handed champagne.
Yeah.
And or just fun stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I will never get to do that.
Gosh.
But that also comes with the whole fact of feeling like it was normal, because why is that served to you as soon as
No
you
kidding.
get, so
It's true. Society normalizes drinking to the point where when people don't drink and they just don't want to.
Yeah.
People freak out. Like, what happened? Is there something wrong with you? Like, it shouldn't be like that.
Yeah. And now too, I mean, obviously there was an issue with the alcohol, so alcoholism is in play, but it's like something that I never thought I'd have to go to somebody like on a dating site or meeting somebody and being like, I'm a recovering alcoholic.
Oh my God.
And I'm 24.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're a recovering alcoholic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you miss
I think
it?
so. No, not really.
Okay, good.
Yeah. I don't miss the hangovers. I'd probably say I miss maybe like the first hour of drinking, where you get a drink and you can sit down and have fun. And then after that, it's either you forget or you like a lot of the time I would argue with somebody or just do something stupid. And that just wasn't the life that I was wanting to live in that moment. It all felt normal, just very habitual. And this is the life that I made for myself.
Wow.
And it was very 50-50 in my head, because I did feel like I was doing well. I lived on my own. Yeah. I had my own car. I wasn't in debt. I had a stable job. I was working for a chiropractor. I felt like the business bitch, kind of thing.
Yeah,
and so it was I felt like I was doing okay, but yeah, behind closed doors, I was an alcoholic. That's what I felt was relaxing.
Oh yeah.
And so like my ex-boyfriend too, like he loved golfing. Golfing ended up turning into
Partying.
Yeah.
Golf can become partying. I know.
So, and so it was super fun in the moment. And then, but thinking about it, it's going back and being like, well, it was 2 p.m. on a Sunday. Maybe we shouldn't have been plastered in the middle of a field driving a go-kart,
Exactly. No kidding. Did you have a boyfriend at the time that you were going through all this? You did?
Yeah.
Where is he now?
It ended up, we broke up about a few days before Christmas of 2023.
Why?
The drinking, it was, we had just started to really, we loved each other, but it was hard to get along, if that makes any sense.
Because he was still drinking?
He was, I was drinking too. He had been gone
so this was before you were hospitalized?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Gotcha.
so we broke up that Christmas, and so he had moved everything out of his apartment my apartment by January, and so from January to August I was by myself.
Oh my gosh.
And so that's kind of when everything really went downhill.
Okay.
But the drinking didn't like increase or decrease.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but it was just my symptoms they started to really show. And
do you guys still keep in contact?
Yeah.
Does he know what you went through? And
Yeah, because that was one of those moments where he had been such a big part of my life and my family. And so that was why my mom was like, it doesn't matter if you guys, I think, hate each other. I don't think that you passing would be fair for him to not come and say goodbye.
No kidding.
And I was like, okay.
So he came inside.
He came, yeah. And he came pretty much like almost every day after that, too.
So at what point did you think, I'm going to die?
I really, to be honest, don't think I ever really had that moment.
Really?
Yeah, because I didn't ever feel like I was dying. I was in a lot of pain, and I was going through all these procedures and stuff, but I never wanted to accept the fact that I was going to die.
Okay.
It just, to me, that seemed even more outrageous than them putting somebody else's organ in me and, you know, trying to live that way. I never thought that death was
Possible.
even an option on the table.
Yeah.
And that's in a little bit of the way that my, you know, family kind of filtered what they said around me and how my doctors did too. It was very interesting. I mean, I was 23, but I was treated very much like a minor. Yeah. My mom was very active in my healthcare plan and everything like that. And thank goodness, because I've been on the other side of it as the healthcare provider, as, you know, the help and nursing assistants and things like that. But I'd never been the sick one.
Yeah.
And so when they're looking at you and they're like, can we put this port in? And I'm like,
what?
And they're like, we have to life flight you to Seattle. And I'm like, and all these different things. And so I started to like get nervous about that, but I never wanted to fully accept it. And
which is probably good.
Yeah. I think maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so, because I definitely was hard-headed and stubborn, and I've been like that my whole life. If you give me a task, I will take it and I will do 110% with it. I will go all the way. And what my grandpa, he literally was like, okay, kiddo, we cannot go all the way with one thing.
What you did with the alcohol.
Yeah. He's like, just one thing.
Let's channel that for good.
Let's just, all right. And so I had to realize that if I wasn't feeling like I was dying, then I won't. And, you know, mind over matter. But in the reality of it, I was scared every time I closed my eyes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the last day that I had there, I didn't sleep for like 5 days. And they were like, you need to sleep. Your body is going to start like going backwards because the functions are not going to be functioning correctly because you're not sleeping. You're going to start hallucinating and all this stuff. And for some reason, I just couldn't sleep. And maybe that was one of those moments where if I did go to sleep, I wasn't going to wake up.
Wow.
But I had a lot of people praying for me. I've got a very, like, in the circle that I have, very 50-50 of, like, more spiritual and, you know, like, rocks and, you know, that kind of, like, crystals and that kind. And then the other half of my family they're very hardcore Christians. And so I had a lot of people praying for me. I had a hard time with that as well, because they said, God won't let you die. God will do the right thing. God will bring you what you need. And in my head, I'm just angry at God because
of course.
he did this to me, I feel like, you know, and if God loved me so much, then why am I sitting here dying in this bed? And so I had a hard time with that. But a thing too that my brother has told me, he said there was because he did his own personal research on if I was gonna make it or not, and the research that he did, it was death or liver transplant. And somehow I was able to walk out of the hospital with neither of those options as mine.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and no port, no dialysis. My kidneys, somehow they just kicked back on, and I was in stage 4 kidney failure. Like,
wow.
It was insane.
And if people saw you, I mean, a lot of people that tune into the show, they listen only. And so, I mean, if you guys could see Malaina, like, you'd never know. I mean, she's very well put together. She's petite. She's in shape. She's beautiful. Like, you'd never know that she went through this horrific event.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy to me. And you're so young.
I know that's the biggest thing when I talk with people and they're like, oh, well, what caused it? And I'm like, alcoholism. And they're like, what?
Yeah.
I don't believe it. And they were like, you used to be a drunk? And I'm like, yeah.
I guess so.
Yeah. I guess. Enough so to where I almost lost an organ. But yeah, so I don't know. I think going back to the God aspect on that, I had seen something recently that God puts his strongest warriors through the hardest battles and things like that.
So true.
And so I think maybe if I didn't go through it now, kicking the alcoholism now, what would 45 look like for me, you
Right,
know, or
right.
even if I would have made it? Because if I didn't ever schedule that appointment to go to the doctor to see that primary doctor on August 7th
my
of 2024, I would have been found dead in my bed in my apartment.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what would you say to young people who are, and we've all done it.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all binge drinked and lived the party lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what advice would you give those?
Yeah, I think the advice that I would give is because I did have the thoughts in my own head, like, this is kind of becoming an issue. So if you have one of those split second thoughts at all, then that means your mom or your brother or your grandparents have probably already seen that as well. If you're getting to the point where you're thinking it, there's most likely other signs that they know. And don't feel embarrassed to ask for the help.
Yeah.
Because I had people coming out of the woodworks when I was in the hospital dying, not even knowing that I drank, and like in aspects of my life that, you know, from high school, different things like that. If I would have just gotten the help, I would have never had to be going through telling this story of almost dying, because I could have just gotten the help in the moment. And I just was embarrassed. I don't know. I think my overall point would be, don't be embarrassed.
Yeah.
A lot of our today's society makes you feel like it's embarrassing to go and try and get that help. And even if it's telehealth or anything, get the help, because I had to even still go through all of that and have to sit down and meet people like you to be able to realize that I need even more in-depth help than mentally than just, you know, health and physically and things like that. So it's not embarrassing.
No.
It's more embarrassing to have to come out this way, you know? So just get the help you need, whether it is with alcohol addiction or substance addiction or even just mental health, because in the moment I didn't know I was so depressed and had so much anxiety and was holding so much, because I again felt like I had given myself a good life. I grew up from a good life, you know. I felt like I didn't really have a lot to complain about.
Yeah.
And so I didn't think that I was depressed.
Sure.
I don't know the signs of depression.
Yeah.
And so it was eye-opening to realize when going and talking with people who are alcoholics after, and they were like, well, what happened? Were you depressed? And I'm like, I guess. Like, I must have been, because I think those are like the two biggest signs of alcoholism. And so just ask for the help.
So would you also say then, listen to the ones that care about you?
Yeah, because they see you in a way that you can't see yourself.
Yeah.
And again, my mindset is just, I'm doing good. I got the job. The paycheck still comes at the end of the week, and you know, I don't got kids that I'm leaving behind or anything like that. So, you know, I've got this under control, and I didn't.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, listen to your loved ones, because you'll have to be saying goodbye to them.
Oh my gosh.
If you don't.
Well, I'm really grateful you're brave enough to tell your story.
Thank you.
You're a miracle.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, I mean, if anything, you have a purpose on this earth. Like, God has a reason that you're here.
And I'm trying to find it.
Yeah.
So
you will.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And this is just the beginning.
Yeah.
Thank you. Safe Harbor is dedicated to helping survivors of trauma find healing and restoration through support, resources, and community. They provide hope for those affected by human trafficking. Visit safeharborforfreedom.com to learn more or support their mission today. Thank you so much, Safe Harbor, for supporting the survivor's voice. Next week on The Survivor's Voice.
You know, at that point, I was kind of questioning the relationship. The look in his eyes, it was crazy. Like, you know, he looked like an animal. I walked into the house, and the second I opened the door, it smelled like I walked into a bar.
Thank you for joining us on The Survivor's Voice. I'm Angie Sedore, reminding you that every survivor's story matters, including yours. If you or someone you know has a story to share, you can contact us at booking@thesurvivorsvoice.net. Your voice deserves to be heard. If you enjoy the survival stories we share, we would love it if you gave this channel a follow and a 5-star rating. No matter how dark the journey, the light of resilience shines brighter. Thank you for listening. If you know someone who would benefit from hearing this story of survival, please share this powerful testimony with them. A heartfelt thank you to our incredible listeners for your unwavering support and to the survivor community for your courage and resilience. You are the heart of this podcast. Special thanks to our producer and editor, Christina Elder, and to Dan Wise with Wise Media Studios for bringing these powerful stories to life. Your dedication makes the survivor's voice possible.